is brought to you by the Nevada Trucking Association. Trucking moves America forward. This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we're always pleased to welcome back to the program Sean McGuinness. He is a partner with Lewis, Roca, Rothgerber, and Christie. All right, I said the whole name.
That's right, yeah.
That's the last time. So a lot of interest going on right now in Japan. Yeah. And the potential for gaming to land in Japan. And MGM talking about potentially putting in $10 billion into a resort there. That's as much as they spend on City Center.
Oh, it's amazing, but it's a great opportunity, and it's very interesting that Japan is actually looking to do this. I was reading that they're going to bring it up to their parliament next week, but just a few weeks ago, it sounded like they were going to wait till their Olympics was passed. But there must be a sea change there where they feel that they can bring this forward, and it's a huge market. I mean, it would be a huge market. You know, they have the pachinko machines, which aren't really, you know, slot machines. It's a variant, but you know, a full integrated resort there could probably be a real opportunity, and it's good to hear that, you know, a Nevada company like MGM is kind of in the mix there.
Well, MGM and Las Vegas Sands,
right.
And Wynn has not made an official announcement, but I think the thought is that why wouldn't they want to go in there?
Right, they'll all start competing, yeah.
A.G. Burnett was on the program, the head of the Gaming Control Board, a couple of months ago, and he was talking about how members of the Japanese Parliament had already been to Nevada to visit with him and talk about, you know, how gaming is regulated in Nevada. Right,
and they actually went to the UNLV Institute as well, and they actually came by and visited a few of the law firms and gaming lawyers as well. So I remember when they came by. It's good they're doing the research, because you need to be thoughtful. If you're going to be legalizing gaming for the first time as a country or a state, you need to make sure that you have your goals set forth. It doesn't really suit anybody well to just copy what another jurisdiction did entirely. So the idea that they're doing the diligence and going forward and checking it out is really a good sign.
Grant Govertson, doing his reporting for Union Gaming, is reporting some pretty good numbers. The gross gaming revenue accelerated by plus 9% in the last quarter here. That's pretty good.
Yeah, it is.
So does this mean that Macau has turned the corner? Or is it that Macau has changed from what it was initially, which is all high rollers, to now people actually utilizing these facilities the way the government really wanted them to use them?
I think it's more of the changing. I still think it's morphing towards that, and I think that it is a good sign for that.
But it's interesting, even though a lot of the analysis has been very positive, except for Wynn, which was more like a hold situation because they're ramping up their new property, but the stock prices have not reflected what looks to me like optimism now.
Well, you know, the stock prices are always kind of an interesting thing to look at. I mean, I remember in early days of my career, casinos were going into Mississippi, and these public companies would open a new casino there, and you would think that when it opened that would cause the stock price to go up, but that wasn't necessarily true, because it actually had more to do with what other things the company was doing, you know, what's their debt ratio, you know, how are they leveraged. So it's hard to tell how that works.
Boyd Gaming in Southern Nevada in particular seems to be booming, and with the sale of their half of the Borgata to MGM, gave them almost $1 billion in cash to be able to keep the company growing. Your thoughts on Boyd?
Well, I think it's smart. You know, it was a win-win for both MGM and Boyd for MGM to get 100% ownership of the Borgata, and MGM's doing a lot of things on the East Coast, and they have, you know, because they have the Maryland property that's going to open next month, they have the project in Massachusetts, you know, so they have some activity there. Boyd, so much not, it was really more Nevada, Las Vegas based. So it was really nice to see that they took that money. You know, they purchased Aliante. They're looking to get the 2 canneries probably sometime in the next, you know, couple of months once they get through the you know, the SEC aspects, but I think it's really good, and it's good for a property like Aliante, which was kind of just operating totally on its own, to be able to leverage some of the other properties and the other expertise that a company like Boyd has. I think that's good for North Las Vegas.
You know, it's interesting because Station Casinos opened the Aliante property in what was pretty undeveloped territory in North Las Vegas at the time it opened. In fact, they had to help finish the freeway ramps to get in and out of the properties, you remember. They lost that in the bankruptcy. It was the only property they lost to TPG. And I was surprised that they didn't actually end up going back in and grabbing that, because the results from Aliante look stunning. I mean, they're tremendous.
Yeah, they really did a good job at Aliante. As a standalone, one-off property, they did a really good job at sort of driving revenues, and it's not something you typically see, because usually one-off properties aren't able to leverage, the customer database and do the marketing the way, the larger companies can do. So I think they've done a good job at that. But Station is, they have their own plans. They just got approved, last night, City of Reno, to build the property by the convention center without the hotel rooms. So they're looking to invest in Reno, and I think it shows that they're trying to diversify, and I think it's good for the city.
I think it's fantastic for the city. I mean, look at all the different northern or southern Nevada companies that are moving into northern Nevada. You've already got Golden Gaming here.
Right.
You've got Marnell Gaming, and now you've got Stations. They have a little sports book at Baldini's, but now they're going to offer a real resort. It's interesting because they've got the grandfathered license at a time when Reno seems to have enough rooms. They don't need to build the rooms. But I've got a funny feeling, and you can comment or not, but this is my own personal opinion, that the plans that they have publicly announced so far are minimal by comparison with what they really plan to open.
Well, I mean, everything happens in stages, and they do have that grandfathered turf club license, which does entitle them to open without the hotel rooms. But it would not surprise me, if that goes as well as station properties normally go.
Right.
And you look at it and you see how that might help the convention center attract people to come to Reno. I think it could be a win-win for everybody, Peppermill, the Atlantis, and then you could see down the road that perhaps stations might build some rooms.
Yes, and if you remember, their original plans were to build 500 rooms on that site,
right,
and then have a bridge connecting across Virginia Street to go directly into the convention center as the Atlantis does.
Right.
So I'm wondering if somebody's blowing dust off of those.
Well, I mean, you have to remember those original plans were pre the economic crisis. So
right,
that was a different era. So I don't know if you can't just really take those and just say we're going to do this today.
No, well, I would agree with you totally, except for the fact that we've gone through the recession. We've gained more jobs back than we had before the recession.
Right.
The state demographer is talking about another 500,000 people being in the state by 2035, I believe.
Right.
And we've got Tesla, we've got Switch, we've got all these other companies. I mean, it would seem like this is as opportune a time, but I'm not going to push you any further because we're going to take a break. We'll be right back. More with Sean McGuinness when we come back.
Sully's in Tamarack Junction is South Reno's headquarters for locals to watch NFL and college football. With all new high-def TVs, including the pop-up, our 17-foot TV wall, and all new high-def TVs. Cold beer, great food, and new TVs. Tamarack Junction.
I'm Hillary Clinton, and I approve this message.
I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody, and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay?
And you can tell them to go themselves.
You could see there was blood coming out of her eyes, blood coming out of her wherever.
You got to see this guy. Oh, I don't know what I said. I don't remember. He's going like, I don't remember.
The signs and symptoms of cataracts can start out small with subtle changes in your vision. So don't wait. Be proactive and take your vision into your own hands. If you're experiencing the onset of cataracts or just have questions, contact your eye care professional or call Eye Care Associates of Nevada today. Dr. Hiss has years of experience specializing in the surgical correction of eye disorders and has completed over 84,000 vision correcting procedures. At Eye Care Associates of Nevada, we'll change the way you look at the world.
Welcome to the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center. What is Switch? The answer? They represent the most dynamic growth industry in the United States today. Data storage, the information of the world. Here they're building the first of many 1 million square foot facilities. It's in their new campus. It's for eBay. Welcome to the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, building economic prosperity for Nevadans.
Sully's in Tamarack Junction is South Reno's headquarters for locals to watch NFL and college football. With all new high-def TVs, including the pop-up, our 17-foot TV wall, and all new high-def TVs. Cold beer, great food, and new TVs. Tamarack Junction.
Closed captioning of Nevada Newsmakers is brought to you by the Nevada Trucking Association. Trucking moves America. And now, back to Nevada Newsmakers with Sam Shad.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, more conversation here with Shad McGuinness with Lewis and Roca. So we've discussed the station's deal. Here's something I never thought that I would say, ever. A 4,000-room property in downtown Reno. And now with Silver Legacy, the other half of the Silver Legacy and Circus being owned by El Dorado, and then the purchase of Isle of Capri that's in motion, this turns the El Dorado resorts into the second largest regional gamer in the country.
Yeah, it's really a great thing for Reno too, because it'll
mind-blowing.
Because they're going to keep the corporate headquarters in Reno, and so whereas a lot of that it used to be you had IGT and you had some others here, years ago. Now this is the Carano family coming back, and they're actually sort of bringing that in. And the Isle is they have some good properties in the Midwest and in the South, and they've done a pretty good job. And I think it's a win-win because, the Isle was founded by a guy named Bernie Goldstein who passed away a few years ago, and it's the sons, the second generation, were sort of keeping it going. And I think as it's going down to another generation of estate planning, this is a win-win for them, because they can come in and be part of the El Dorado and leverage, the Carano's experience in operating the properties. I think they've done a good job with the MTR, transaction they had, so they really are able to really drill down into the regional gaming market outside of Nevada.
And when you look at the investors, I mean, it's solid gold investors. These are the major companies that are involved. Is the plan, do you think, and I mean, you don't represent the El Dorado, or at least I don't think you do.
No.
but do you think the plan is to, because that's so many rooms, 4,000 rooms in Las Vegas, that would be okay, but in Reno, that's a lot of rooms. So do you think the idea is to leverage all of those Isle of Capri properties and the other MTR properties to flip people to Reno as part of the game plan?
Well, I think that would make sense. I mean, it's that's typically what you see with the companies. When you look at like when Harrah's was going early on, and they were sort of becoming the McDonald's of gaming by having casinos in every one of the new jurisdictions. What they would do is they would use those new customers and they would bring them to Las Vegas, bring them to Reno. So there's no reason to imagine that the Caranos wouldn't try to leverage that as well. It'll be interesting to see, once this closes, I think it's supposed to close sometime early to mid next year, what they do with the Isle of Capri brand, because right now, with the Circus purchase that they had from MGM, they still have rights to use that name, but it'd be interesting to see if they would rebrand that. I don't know if they would or not, but it'd be interesting.
You mentioned Harrah's, which became Caesars. It looks like the bankruptcy is finally getting wound up.
It's been glacial, yeah.
It's been
taken a while, and it's and that's just what happened. The stakes are real high, because they were so highly leveraged, and you had the senior lenders and the junior lenders, and everybody has to fight for their position. But it does seem like they've figured out a way to get everybody on board.
Do you think the figuring out was that the owners of Caesars ponied up another $5 billion to put into the pot?
Well, that helps.
I mean, that really was the helpful portion of the resolution here.
Right.
Do you think that this will encourage them to sell properties? There are people that would like to buy the Rio, but the price has been too high. There are people that would like to buy Reno or the Lake, but the prices have been too high. Do you think that as part of this reorganization, you may see some changing in the pricing structure?
I think so, because part of the reason that the pricing structure, as I understand it, has been the way it was is the way the company evolved, and of course that was another pre-recession type deal. So they leveraged themselves at certain EBITDA multiples, and so when you're looking at what to do with those properties, I mean, how can they properly divest of them or sell something for less than what they have it leveraged for. So I think when you go through the bankruptcy, I think they have to get out of bankruptcy, they have to emerge. But I do think there'll be some opportunity there, because there's some assets there that probably aren't core assets, and that they could then sell to others, and there'd be some other opportunities, and there'd be some good opportunities for people to get involved in the lake and come up here to Reno as well.
It was interesting because MGM sort of went through a similar thing, not under the same circumstances of bankruptcy, but being forced to give up half of the ownership of Borgata, but setting the price so high for their half that nobody could come in and purchase it, and then in the end they end up taking out the whole thing.
Right.
Quick question for you. Fontainebleau. Do you see anybody coming in to buy that at this point in time?
Well, it'll be interesting. I mean, that of course, the history of that property is so, I'm not sure when there actually really was a casino on that property last. I mean, because, you know, the Fontainebleau, it seemed like that was moving and it all stopped. Before that, you had some companies trying to build, I think, a country music themed casino, and then I think there was also some timeshare people that were trying to do something. I mean, hopefully someone can come in and get it, because there is some, because if they don't do something soon, then I think you're going to have to implode what it is and start over.
Ooh.
And that would be bad.
$3 billion or plus down the drain. All right, that's where we got to leave it. Sean McGuinness, always a pleasure. I have 100 more questions. Come back soon.
Okay, thanks,
All right,
Sam.
thank you. We'll be right back.
Nevada Newsmakers is brought to you in part